Papa Jack was ready. Ready for Freddy. Oh man, I miss Freddy. Let's jump right into it. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Uh-oh. Messed that one up. Okay. All right, let's give it a couple seconds for people to get in here, get set up, get their drinks ready, get everything ready. Oh, because we're getting started in just a couple seconds. Are we getting better video quality today? It looks like we're getting better video quality. I hope so. If it looks better to you guys, let me know in the comments because I made some changes with the setup, so hopefully that'll help. All right, let's go ahead and bring this down and get started. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the very best part of your week, or at the very least, it's the best part of my week. I enjoy this every single time. You know why? Because I know how to enjoy it every single time. The trick is if you would also like to enjoy this to the absolute maximum, if you would like to reach the height of humanity, the culmination of all of civilization, if you would like to take today's live stream and turn it up to orgasmic levels, all you really need to do, my light's in the way. All you really need to do is grab your glass, your mug or your flask, a chalice, a stein, or even a cask. Raise it high and let's make a splash. It's time now for our libation batch. Toast the night and enjoy the mood. Together now, we drink some booze. On your mark, let's not wait. It's cheers with chaps, so don't be late. Cheers, boys. Oh, magnificent. Ooh, that Pilsner, I forgot about that. That's a good one. I like it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started today. In today's lesson, I'm going to be teaching you. Cheers, JJ. It's good to see you, buddy. By the way, JJ, let me know in the comments, is the video quality today better than normal? Because I made some changes to the setup because I saw how bad our video quality has been on YouTube, and I wanted to try to improve it a little bit. So let me know if it's the same, worse, or better. Either way. All right, so for today's lesson, I'm going to be teaching you about the easy way to talk to girls. This is something that a ton of guys all over the world have trouble with. They have problems with it mentally, and they have problems with it just knowledge-wise about, like, what do I do? What do I say? How do I do this? We're going to touch on all of that stuff. Oh, Z-Mac, I see you in there, buddy. I was just thinking about you today. I haven't had a chance to message you, but we need to chat after we finish the live stream today. Let's me and you talk. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump straight into it. But before we do, I'm going to let you know there's a secret second lesson built into today's lesson. I'm going to teach you, yes, how to talk to girls in an easy way, in a way that makes everything so much better. But I'm also going to teach you a second secret lesson about how to solve any problem that you're having. And I'll explain that one at the end whenever I can show you all the pieces and how it fits together. So let's jump into this lesson about talking to girls the easy way. First off, we need to identify what the problems are. Whenever guys come to me and they say that they're having a hard time talking to girls, they're not sure what to do, not sure what to say, they get nervous, they get anxiety, they get all of this stuff. Most of it, actually all of it that I can think of, boils down to these three basic problems. Either one, they have a misconception of the differences between men and women. They think, oh, well, sure, Jack, I can talk to guys, no problem. It's so easy, but I can't talk to girls. I don't know how to talk to girls. And then what do I say? And what are they going to think of me? And what are we going to talk about? And what do we have in common? And all that stuff, right? They think that there's this wide gap between talking to guys and talking to girls. We're not just going to dispel that, which of course we are, but we're also going to explain why that's incorrect and how you can change that in your mind so that that's not a problem anymore. The second problem that we have here is we have a binary view of, oh, good, I'm glad to hear that, JJ. So we have a binary view of success or failure. Most men, whenever they talk to girls, they think of things as, I talked to a girl, it was either a success or it was a failure. I got her number, so it was a success. I didn't get her number, so it was a failure. I got a date set up, so it was a success. I didn't get a date set up, so it was a failure. And it's either on or off. It's either win or lose, one way or the other. But not only is that not the right way to look at it, but it's extremely damaging to your understanding, and it prevents you from ever actually getting better at it. So we're going to go deeper into that one as well. And the last thing is that they have no sandbox. What I mean by that is there's no way to practice, because your practice arena is the same as your performance arena, where you are actually doing the thing that you want to do. So there's no way to practice in a safe and controlled environment. And that's true, right? Talking to girls is talking to girls. There's no way to practice that. There's no book that you can read that's going to let you practice it. There's no video course out there, not even mine. There's not even a live stream that's going to let you practice talking to girls. You have to actually talk to girls. So you have to essentially do the performance in order to practice. But the good news is we're going to fix that as well. So these are our three base problems that guys have whenever they're trying to talk to girls and why it's so difficult for them. So let's go through these and actually fix these problems to make it much easier for you to talk to women, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what your current relationship or skill level is like. These things will help to make it a lot easier for you. So the first thing that we want to tackle this first problem, the misconception of the differences between men and women. The reality is women are just people. They're not angels. They're not puppy dogs and unicorns and leprechauns sent from the heavens above to bless us with their presence. They're just people, right? They eat and shit and fart and burp just the same as all the rest of us. And the reality is that talking to women is the same as talking to men, because it's just talking to people. So if you're having trouble talking to women, there's a good chance that you have this misconception in your head that talking to women is somehow different from talking to other guys or talking to people that you know, talking to your coworkers or talking to your boss or talking to your family or anybody like that. And the truth is, it's not. But there are some things that you need to be aware of in order for this lesson to actually sink in, right? And the first thing that we need to understand is that you're trying to find common ground. This is the same as when you meet another guy. If you're hanging out at a bar and you meet another guy there, you guys start talking, all you're doing is you're trying to find common ground. You don't have to have everything in common. In fact, you don't even need that much in common. You just need maybe one thing, maybe, or maybe you have nothing in common and you just chat, just shooting the shit, just for the fun of it. Like, think about it like an airport bar or something. If you're just waiting for a flight, you've got 30 minutes until you board, you're just hanging out, having a beer. There's somebody else there. You guys just talk about the weather, where you're from, where you're going, talk about what brought you around here, whatever, just chatting. Same if it's a girl. There's no special secret. There's no unspoken understanding of, oh, but if it's a girl, then you have to be on. You have to perform in some way that you don't have to for a guy. That's simply untrue. Talking to a girl is the exact same as talking to a guy, even if you're trying to flirt with her, because all you're doing is you're trying to find something in common. And even if you have nothing in common, the thing you have in common could be that you're both here and you both want to chat. That's enough to create something, right? So all you're doing is you're just searching for something you have in common. All right. Now, the next problem that a lot of guys have is they say, okay, Jack, but listen, whenever I talk to my friends, whenever I talk to my guy friends, my buddies, it's easy. I can just chat and I can talk about anything and I don't feel any pressure and I don't ever have to think about what to say next. It just comes naturally. And yeah, that's true. I absolutely get that. That is true. But here's the thing is it's not because she's a girl. It's because she's a stranger. So it's just as difficult is the wrong word, but it's just as awkward talking to a stranger who's a guy. So if you can talk to a guy, then you can talk to a girl. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, Jack, but I'm not even good at that. Okay, well, you said earlier that you have friends, right? You have buddies. So that means that you have at some point started up a conversation with somebody who you didn't know, where you found something that you have in common to bond over, even if it's just we're both in the same place at the same time, because that's not nothing. That's actually pretty common as a way to bond. That's fine. And then you develop some kind of friendship or relationship after that. So yeah, of course, you feel more comfortable talking to somebody who already knows you well, who's not going to judge you for the things that you say, for the way that you think, for whatever else. That's true. But it's not because she's a girl. So you need to throw that out of your head entirely. Talking to girls and talking to guys is the exact same. All that you're focusing on is the difference between talking to a stranger and talking to a friend, which is different, but it's not necessarily difficult, right? All that you're doing, like I said earlier, is just searching for common ground. That's it. And if you can do that, if you can find something, anything that you have in common, which there is something, because like I said, even just being in the same place at the same time, that works, then you have the start of a beautiful relationship of some kind. Now, the last thing is the binary. This is maybe the most toxic belief. And that's something that we're going to get a little bit deeper into. This binary idea of a conversation has to be won or lost. That if you start up a conversation, things are either going well or they are going badly. Like that, this is absolutely not true. And like we just said a minute ago, women are just people, right? Talking to girls is the same as talking to guys. So imagine in your mind, right? I want you to put yourself in a situation. If you're sitting, let's go back to the airport bar that I used as an example earlier. If you're sitting at the airport bar and there's another guy a couple of seats down, you say, hey man, how you doing? And he says, and then just stops talking. Did you lose? No, just he didn't feel like talking. It's fine, right? No skin off your back. You're fine. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't hurt your feelings. It doesn't make you feel like less of a man. It doesn't make you feel less of anything. In fact, it probably doesn't make you feel anything at all. You're like, oh, okay. Guess he's not in the mood. Whatever. And then you move on. And you completely forget about it. You put it out of your head. But guys think that it's different if you're talking to a girl. Oh, I said hi to the girl and she just blew me off. Like, okay, so what? Maybe she wasn't in the mood to talk. Maybe she's busy. Maybe her mind is elsewhere. Maybe she's focused on something. Maybe whatever. Doesn't matter. So what? Doesn't matter. Same as with the guy. So instead of viewing a conversation as something that you have to win or lose, something that has a distinct success or failure condition, you just view it as a conversation. That's all that it is, and it's nothing more, but it's also nothing less than that. It's just a conversation. It's just the start of a conversation. And if you can dispel that binary thought in your head, then you will begin to learn without failure. Right? So this is taking us to the second problem, which is the concept of this binary success or failure, that there's a clear winner or loser in a conversation or anything like that. Absolutely untrue. So one of the biggest problems that guys have is that whenever they go out, they think that for some reason they think that talking to people, especially flirting with girls and chatting them up, is some kind of thing that just everybody knows how to do. But it's not. It's a skill just like all other skills. It's a skill just like reading or writing is a skill. And whenever you first started learning to read, you probably sucked at it. I know it's a long, long time ago to think about, but when you first started learning to read, you sucked at reading. You did. And that's okay. Nobody was angry at you for not being able to read War and Peace when you were in kindergarten. That's expected, right? It's not uncommon to suck at something when you first start. Same thing is true here. Whenever you're talking to girls, this is just skill acquisition. You're just learning a skill. You're practicing something. And whenever you're learning something and you're practicing something, you're not going to be good at it. There's a reason that you don't take your guitar lessons on stage in front of an audience. There's a reason that you don't move to Spain before even learning how to say hola. There's a reason that you suck at these things because you haven't done them yet. And the same is true here. Whenever you're trying to start to talk to girls, whenever you realize, oh, this isn't something I'm very good at, I need to get better at it, I want to have success with women, all you have to do is practice it, right? Which I know sounds trite and sounds useless, but we're thinking about it conceptually from your mind. It's important that we understand why we're practicing and that we are practicing, that nobody expects you to be perfect on your first outing. That's not how this works. Nobody gets up looking like me and then goes on to win the gold medal in the Olympics later that afternoon. That's not how this works. You have to practice the thing to get good at the thing, which means you have to suck at the thing before you can suck less at the thing, before you can get good at the thing, before you can become great at the thing, whatever it is. And this is a skill just like any other. So accept that you're going to suck at first and allow that. Because remember, we are removing the binary. We're completely removing the idea of a fail state. And that's what we're looking for here. There is no failure in having a conversation. Just the same way that there's no failure whenever you're practicing your guitar, whenever you're practicing your Spanish, or whenever you're practicing to read and you make mistakes. It's okay. It's expected, right? You just keep on trying and you keep on practicing and you keep getting better at it until one day you suck less than you did before. And then one day, as you keep practicing, you don't just suck less, you're actually pretty good at it. And then one day you're pretty great at it, but it takes that continued perseverance and that continued practice. Now, if every single time that you practice something and you make a mistake, you say, oh, that sucks, I'm awful, I'll never be good at this, then you're right, because you're knocking yourself back down. For every step you take forward, you're knocking yourself back. And every step you take forward, you're knocking yourself back. So remove the failure state entirely. There is no failure. You're just learning. You're just practicing something. And this is a very important concept to take into your head, because as you go through this, you're going to get better the more you do it. That is obviously true. That is true with everything, right? The more you do something, the more that you will get better at it if you're paying attention. Because as we're going to get to in a little bit, we're going to deal with pattern recognition and all that stuff. But what you want to do to remove the fail state is completely forget about the idea of the success state as well. That's the problem that creates the fail state, is if you say, I'm going into this conversation to try to get her number, or to try to get her on a date, or to do this thing. If you have a clear success state, then not achieving the success state is a clear failed state, right? So you need to remove the success state entirely. You're not trying to chat her up. You're not trying to get her number. You're not trying to take her on a date. All you're doing is having a conversation. So you want to be practicing platonic engagement. Just practice talking. That's it. Just chat with girls, chat with guys, chat with everybody, right? If you're still having a problem with this first part, with understanding that women are just people and men and women are the same and you can talk to them the same, right? Not exactly about the same things, but that's the same with everybody, right? You talk to a girl on the street differently than you talk to your grandmother, right? So even among women, you make distinctions about how you talk to different people. That's understood. We get that. But just talking to them is the point. And so if that's the goal, it's to become comfortable talking with girls. It's to become better at talking with girls. How do you do that? Practice it. Do the thing as much as you can. Talk to people everywhere you go. Talk to girls, talk to guys. Just chat. And we aren't looking for anything. This is important because we're removing the fail state entirely. We're just learning. We're just practicing and nothing more. That's it. You don't want anything. You're not trying to get anything. You're just talking. That's it. And what this is going to do for us is this is going to put you in a state of constant learning where if we aren't aiming to get the number, then what exactly are we aiming to do? Well, that's a great question. What we're aiming to do is have conversations, have as many conversations as possible, because now instead of the success state being to get something from the conversation, it is simply to have a conversation, or rather to try to start a conversation. That's it. That is our action. And that action is the success state. If you try to start a conversation, you've succeeded. Even if, as soon as you say, hey, my name's Jack, it's nice to, oh, and she's already turned and walked away, is that a failure? No, you did the action. That is a success. So we're completely changing how you view the success and failure. Failure is not doing the action. Inaction is failure. However, as long as you try to start the conversation, that is a success. Because what we are looking for here is we are looking to replace risk with reward. This is something that, because there's no way to practice this, because guys are worried. They're worried about embarrassment. They're worried about rejection. They're worried about all these other things. They're worried about, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to lead a conversation. I don't know how to da, 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 da. Okay, cool. There's no risk here. Because again, there's no goal other than do the action, try to start the conversation. We are rewarding the action. The action is the success, not any specific thing, right? Just the action. Same way as if you wanted to lose weight. Okay, cool. What's the action? What are we rewarding? Are we trying to hit a new personal best every single day? No, that would be a ridiculous and silly goal to have. Instead, the action you're trying to reward is I go to the gym and I exercise. That's it. That's it. That's the action, right? And then however well you do that, okay, maybe some days you do it better than others. Maybe some days you do more than others. Okay, that's fine. But you did the action of I went to the gym and I exercised. Same thing here, except our action that we are rewarding is you started a conversation or tried to start a conversation even. That is the reward. So there's no risk to it, right? Because all you have to do is just try to start a conversation. Everything from there just becomes a point in your data set. So let me explain what I mean. Your brain and all people's brains are wired to understand patterns. We understand patterns more than anything else. All languages are patterns. That's why we're able to create language models like ChatGPT and stuff like that. And to us, it looks like intelligence, even though it doesn't understand a fucking word it's saying, right? But it looks like intelligence because it follows the pattern. It mimics the pattern perfectly. Awesome. That's fantastic to us, but it actually isn't intelligent. It doesn't understand it. It's because we understand patterns. It's the same way that you're able to recognize a face that you've seen 2-3 times and pick it out of a line of people who all look fairly similar. It's why you're able to understand the differences between Asian features and Caucasian features on a face, because you've seen a pattern enough times that before you even speak to somebody or hear anything they say at all, you can already guess parts of their lineage, right? Because we understand patterns. Now, we can use that. We can use that to our advantage, because most of the time, if you're having trouble, if you're struggling with talking to women, it's because you're lacking enough data points in your pattern. You need to talk to more people. Just talk to more people and see what's going on. See what's happening. What are they responding well to? What are they responding poorly to? If you do 10 approaches to start up a conversation, again, doesn't matter, men or women, and you just run up and you say, hey, man, what's up? I'm Jack. Hey, who wants to party? Okay, and if 9 out of 10 of them run away, then like, okay, cool, awesome. That is a lot of data points to let me know that is probably a subpar approach. That's not what we want to do. Awesome. Now, I'm not angry about it. I'm not angry about the results. It's just a data point in my larger pattern set. And that's what we're aiming to do, is we're aiming to create a large data set of just all the points so that you can start to understand patterns in conversation. Again, remember, there is no failure state. The only, except for inaction. Inaction is the failure state. Action. trying to start a conversation is all. That's the only thing you have to do. From there, we aren't looking to get anything. This is purely platonic. We're not trying to flirt. We aren't trying to get their number. We aren't trying to get them on a date. We aren't trying to get anything. We're just talking. The reason for this is because, one, it's going to make you very comfortable with talking to people, talking to strangers. It's going to completely remove this thing. You're not going to see any differences anymore. And it's going to remove this part where you think that, oh, it's so hard to talk to them because they're a stranger. Well, if you get good at talking to strangers, how do I get good at talking to strangers, Jack? Well, do it a bunch, right? Of course. So that's all that we're aiming to do. We're trying to, first of all, break that down and become comfortable. But second, we're starting to gather more and more data points about conversations with strangers, things that work, things that don't work, things that this type of person likes and that this type of person doesn't. You may find this hard to believe, but there are different types of people out there. In fact, there are different types of women. One might even say that there are 14 types of women that all kind of match up personality-wise. And talking to the different ones in the same way will get you wildly different results. Why is that? Because they want to talk about different things. They enjoy different types of conversations. They enjoy different topics of conversation. They even enjoy different levels of playfulness, of seriousness, of sexuality, of all that stuff. But you don't know because you don't have enough data points yet in your pattern, right? You don't have enough data points in your set to even identify which type of girl it is, much less understand that, oh, whenever I'm talking to this type of girl, I'm going to react this kind of way. I'm going to tell this type of joke. I'm going to do this kind of thing. And that's okay. You don't have to, because remember, right now, you're just learning, right? And so as you're learning, you're going to be gathering all this data, all this information, and you don't even have to do it intentionally. Shit, I knew it was going to do that. Anyway, whatever. You don't even have to do it intentionally or consciously. Your mind will automatically start to log all of these data points, and it will start to follow the patterns that you see without you having to consciously do it. So understand this, that pattern recognition is only exposure plus intent. You have to actually be paying attention to it. If it's just there all the time, but you're not listening, you're not paying attention, then you'll never actually put everything together into a pattern that makes sense. It'll just be there. But as soon as you understand what you're looking at and you try to pay attention to it and you try to piece it together, then the pattern becomes very obvious. It becomes self-evident to you as you're going through it. Now, as for data point collection, as much as possible, what's most likely going to happen? I'm sure that some people are wondering right now, like, okay, well, Jack, like if I just go up and talk to girls all the time, but I never, get their number or get a date or anything, then what's the fucking point, right? That's a fair enough question. That's going to take care of itself on its own, right? Because you're already watching videos and you're already thinking about it and you're already paying attention to things like this. So you're learning things on the side, but you're not applying them. And that's okay, because right now you're learning two different skill sets. One, you're learning how to actually talk to women and seduce them and turn it into relationships and all that. That's a good skill, but it doesn't work unless you have the other skill as well, which is I just know how to talk to people, talk to women as well, right? Because remember, women are just people, right? So once you build that skill set up and you understand how to talk to people, how to have conversations, and you know these things, they're going to naturally begin to meld together. And you're going to start trying to add these things in. But remember, we still don't have a fail state towards not succeeding on those because you're still just using test mode, right? You're just using test mode. All of this is just data collection. It's not even live. It doesn't matter. And this is important because it protects your ego. Your ego is the thing that's going to try to stop you from doing stuff. That's the reason that you get anxious whenever you go up and try to approach a girl and then your mind's like, no, wait, stop. What do I say? What do I do? What if she laughs at me? What if she walks away? And then you just say, no, it's fine. It's fine, brain. Look, we're just in test mode. We're just doing data collection. That's all that it is. This is completely impersonal. I don't even care. If she stays to talk, cool. If she doesn't, cool. Doesn't matter. Literally does not matter. All that we're doing is we're just observing. We're just collecting data. Now, obviously, you are both a participant and an observer, but you're just observing with your mind what happens when me, the body and mouth, go up and participate in this conversation. We're only in test mode. We're just seeing, how does it work? What happens when we try this? What happens when we try this? What happens when we try this? We're just collecting data points. That's all that it is, because this is all just for pattern recognition. Now, there's no risk of embarrassment because who cares, right? We're just in test mode. None of it matters. I'm not trying to get anything. There's no risk of rejection because she can't reject something I'm not trying to ask for. I'm not trying to offer it, right? Like, imagine if you walked up to a guy and you just said, "Hey, man, my name's Jack. Nice to meet you. What's your name?" And he said, "Sorry, I have a girlfriend." You'd be like, "Okay, this is cool, dude." There's no rejection, right? Why? Because you don't care. It doesn't matter. Same thing here. You're just in test mode. None of it matters. And so once you understand how to treat it this way, as if you're just in test mode, because you are, and your only fail state is inaction, the action that we're trying to reward, that we're trying to repeat, is simply starting a conversation so that we can collect more data points. Once you understand that, then all of this other stuff kind of starts to go away. It starts to fade away. Because if you're just talking to everybody, then yeah, women are just people, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, stranger, friend, doesn't really matter, right? And failure, I can't fail if all that I have to do is try to start a conversation, right? There's no failure state there. There's just, did you do the action or not? Okay, I did the action. Great, I succeeded. I win. That's it. And so all of this other stuff goes away entirely. And now, once you start doing this, once you actually shift your mind into being able to do this and you do it, you actually just go out and talk to people, then it becomes second nature. It becomes so easy that you're like, why couldn't I do this in the first place? All I'm doing is just chatting. I'm just talking to people. There's nothing else to it. I'm not trying to get anything, but sometimes it happens. Sometimes when I'm not even trying, I'm just like, "You seem really cool though. Like, let's keep this conversation going. Let's grab some tacos or whatever." And it just happens naturally. It just starts to occur. And the reason is because you're collecting all the data points. You're understanding the patterns without intentionally trying. You're just getting better at the pattern recognition. And then you're starting to apply the things that you learned from all of my other live streams. And I'm sure all the other things that you've done, from the video courses, from the books, from everything else. You start to apply all of this stuff to your test mode. And all of a sudden, test mode becomes really fucking real, really rewarding too. So if you do this, if you actually understand this, reframe it in your mind so that there's no failure state, and then you put it into action and just start chatting with everybody, what you're going to find is probably within about 2 to 3 weeks, it's going to become incredibly easy. And within about 4 to 6 weeks, it's going to be the easiest thing in the world. It's going to be completely natural. And you're going to start seeing real results with women because you just put it into action. And you tricked your brain into changing its failure state. You tricked your brain so that it can't be embarrassed anymore, so that there's no risk to having these conversations. There's only reward. And all that we're rewarding is we're just rewarding the action, right? And the action is the success state. So if you do this, it's so incredibly easy that you're going to succeed no matter what. This is how you do it. Now, before we move on to the Q&A section, first off, for those of you watching, please do me a huge favor. Hit that thumbs up button, hit the like button. Really means a lot to me. It helps the channel grow. It helps other people to find our content. But also, it's just a personal favor to me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Now, at the beginning, I promised you a secret second lesson to teach you how to solve any problem that you have, right? Check it out. The first thing we have to do is we have to define what is the problem clearly. What exactly is our problem? I think it's hard to talk to girls, but it's easy to talk to guys. I hate failing and I hate being rejected. I have no way of practicing and getting better. Okay, define our problem. Next, we need to understand the situation entirely. We need to look at it clearly and figure out, okay, cool. If I'm looking at this as an outside observer, what do I see? Does this change any of my problems? Does this change the way that any of them look? Are some of my problems not actually problems? Maybe they're even positives and I didn't know yet. But just observing from an outside perspective to try and understand. The next thing we need to do, once we've defined the problem, we've understood it thoroughly and completely, is we need to find a reframe. Because 99% of the time, the thing that's stopping you from succeeding with whatever your problem is some weird shit going on in your brain, right? So we need to find some kind of reframe, some way of talking to ourselves that's going to change the way that we look at something. Doesn't change any of the facts on the ground, doesn't change any of the realities. It's just a choice in how to view reality in the world around you. You find a reframe that's going to work for you. So in this case, figuring out a way to learn without failure by simply removing the fail state. That's it. And then we find a way to put that into action. Okay, cool. If I define my problem, I understand exactly what it is. I find a reframe that makes sense to me in my mind. How would that look if I put that into action? And that's all you have to do. Then you actually just do the thing, right? Put it into action. Test it, right? It might not work quite the way that you planned. That's okay. You can rework it. It's fine because, again, just like this, we're in test mode. Doesn't matter. You're trying a thing. But this is how you solve literally any problem in your life, whatever it is. This is actually the exact heuristic that I apply whenever I'm having problems myself. If I'm having problems with a relationship, if I'm having problems with work, if I'm having problems with business, if I'm having problems with not enough beer or whatever it is, whatever my problem is, this heuristic, define the problem, understand the situation, reframe whatever needs to be reframed, trick my brain basically, and then create a plan of action so that I can actually put this into practice and succeed. Then you do it, and that's it. So that's your secret. Second lesson is a life lesson that you can use forever and just fucking win at everything. You're welcome. Hope you paid attention. Hope you stuck around long enough to get that one. That was a good one. Fun little 3-minute bonus lesson. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and move over to our live Q&A section. Oh, I hate that. Okay. Well, there we go. There we go. That's better. How you doing, Big Paul?
Doing great.
Good. I'm glad to hear it, man.
Hey everyone,
What's
how
up,
are you doing?
Antonio? Good to see you, man.
Hopefully my Wi-Fi is doing better than last time.
Oh, much better than last time. Much better than
Yeah,
last time.
all right.
Paul, could you do me a huge favor and turn him down just about 20%?
Yeah.
Me?
There we go.
The
Awesome.
volume?
Yeah, I was just having Paul adjust you down a little bit.
All right.
I have no idea how it's coming through on the other people's ends, but maybe because your voice is so deep, it makes my desk shake and it catches on my microphone. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the questions.
Yeah, sure. So the first question for today is, how do I go approaching girls while shopping in the grocery store, at the gym, or any specific place?
So
So much for better Wi-Fi.
yeah, right. He'll be back though. It's fine. So to answer the question though, directly, you want to, whatever your situation is, you want to make sure that they are not like otherwise very engaged in an activity, but also you want to be on equal footing with them. So, for example, if you're at the grocery store and you're both browsing in the same aisle, then it's fine. You start up a conversation. But if you're waiting at checkout and they're walking by, bad time to start a conversation, right? You're not on equal footing. You're not in the same place doing the same thing. You're at the gym and she's working out on a leg machine or something. Don't talk to her while you're just standing there and she's working out. But if you're both running on treadmills next to each other, you can start up a conversation, right? You want to be on equal footing with them, whatever the situation is. And it needs to be something where they are not super engaged, super focused, right? What do you think, Paul, about this?
I completely agree. Personally, I find those like kind of trying to talk or pick up in gyms and grocery stores and stuff. I find it to just be a little weird. because there are so many other places that I'd rather do it. So I'd actually rather just avoid the whole situation, because first of all, if I'm in the gym, I am already super focused on what I'm doing. So I'm not gonna react to anyone around me. Like I'm
Right.
doing my thing, and once I'm done, I'm going home to take a shower.
Sure.
And the same if I go to the grocery store. I hate shopping in
Mm,
general, which means I know exactly what I'm getting, and I'm gonna be in and out of that store as fast as possible.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so to me, like I don't think, yeah, you would never see me do that in general, I think.
Sure. I can definitely understand that. There's nothing wrong with starting a conversation with somebody in any place, but there are times for it, right? Like, can you talk to girls at church? Yes. In the middle of the sermon? Probably not, right? Like, there's a time for it, there's a situation for it, there's a place. Um, Read the situation, but if you're not sure, if you have something specific in mind, you're not sure if you can do it or not, try it. But pay attention to the response, right? If you try to say hi to her, or you try to introduce yourself, or you try to make some comment or something like that, and she's just totally shutting you out, okay, cool. You've misread the situation, right? And that's okay. Again, right? There's no risk, there's no failure state here. It's just you tried a thing, but then also learn from that failure or not failure. You know what I mean? Learn from that data point rather, right? And say, okay, cool. I won't do that again. And that's how you build the pattern recognition to know when is the right time, the right place, the right situation, is by just seeing the pattern done, 10 times, 100 times, however many times it takes for you to completely understand it. And I think that that's the same with any place. It's the same as like, is there a bad time to talk to a girl at the bar? Yes, of course there is, right? She's trying to flag down the bartender and she's angry because she doesn't have anything to drink and the bartender's paying attention to everybody else. Bad time to start a conversation. She's having a fight with her boyfriend. Bad time to start a conversation, right? Like no matter what the place is, there are good times and there are worse times to talk to somebody. So just apply the knowledge that you get from testing the pattern, basically.
Or just have some situational awareness, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
yeah.
Well, and
Personally, I think that comes off sometimes from anxiety, whether or not to approach that specific girl or when to do it. So people just jump straight to it and try to approach the girl immediately. I think that's personally where it comes from. It's maybe the anxiety of fearing of doing a mistake, or maybe just about being insecure about yourself and want to get rid of the interaction as fast as you can. It, yeah, I think that's the reason why that happens.
right. Well, and that may be part of it, but situational awareness is different for everybody, and it's different among cultures as well. It's different among countries, right? So your situational awareness, even in a place as close as Texas to Mexico, right? It's like literally just one border over. Anybody can cross it at any time they want, apparently, and the cultural difference there is going to be wide. So you do need to find the situational awareness through the pattern recognition, but if you try something and it fails, then don't, or rather, it does not lead to a conversation, right? Again, I don't want to use the word failure. If you try something and it does not lead to the conversation, then understand that that is just as important a data point as if it does, right? Okay, cool. This is a thing that does not work. This is a thing that does. This is a thing that people like. This is a thing that they don't. And you build that situational awareness through repetition, through practice.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What do you think is the first step of man that should take if they struggle with anxiety or approaching anxiety with girls specifically, maybe because of lack of experience or just because of their whole personality, what do you think is their first step that they need to take in order to avoid that, or to avoid those weird interactions because of their crippling anxiety and stuff?
So just like I said earlier, right, we're going to define, understand, reframe, action step. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to define, like, what is the anxiety, right? Like, what's our cause here? What's causing this anxiety? Because there are all types of anxiety, right? There's like whenever the air gets too stuffy, I get anxiety that I can't breathe well. Is that the anxiety that we're talking about? Because the action step is going to be completely different. Is it anxiety that maybe my underwear is showing? Is it anxiety that my calves are not as big as I want them to be, so I don't feel like enough of a man, or whatever it is? So you first have to define, like, what is the anxiety about? Why are you feeling anxious? And it's not just because, like, oh, because talk to girl. Like, it isn't that simple. There's a reason. There's something that's causing the anxiety. And if it's, well, I don't have enough experience, then, right, like, cool, let's look through this. And again, just like I said in the lesson, hey, you're probably going to suck, but it's okay. We're going into test mode here so that you can get the experience, so that you can practice. That's all, right? And so you just remove any sort of failure state. So if you're anxious about rejection, cool. You can't be rejected if you're not asking for anything, right? If you're anxious about the risk of embarrassment, okay, cool. What could possibly be embarrassing about this? Would it be embarrassing if it was a guy? If you walked up to a guy and you said, hey, my name's Jack, and he was like, oh, sorry, man, I'm busy right now. Would that be embarrassing? No, right? You'd be like, okay, cool, no worries. And then you would move on with your day. All right, cool. Then in that case, whatever is causing the anxiety, figure out, like, how would this look in a different situation? How would it look if it was a guy? How would it look if I were in a different place? How would it look if I weren't anxious about this? What would my action be? What would my action be now if I am anxious? Okay, cool. How can I deal with these things? You're just trying to, first of all, define the problem, and second, understand it. And then once you've done those two things, you can build yourself a reframe and an action step that leads you to the next step, right? So that's a long way of saying, what are you anxious about? You have to define it, because I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying, oh, just ignore it, push through it, right? Because that doesn't work. That's useless as far as advice goes. I'm saying you have to actually talk to yourself and figure out, this is what's making me anxious. I feel anxious whenever I go up to talk to a girl because I'm worried she's going to think I'm too old and too fat. Okay, cool. If that's the case, then let's look at it, right? So let's actually examine this, because I feel this, right? Like, this is a thing that I actively feel whenever I go up to talk to girls. Now, because I've been in test mode for so long, I don't have a failure state the way that most guys do. To me, inaction is the failure state, right? So I'm able to do the action anyway, but let's examine the actual anxiety. Say, okay, cool. I'm afraid she's going to think that I'm too old and too fat, and so she won't be attracted to me. Okay, well, then that begs the next question of, do I want her to be attracted to me? Do I care if she's attracted to me? Well, I mean, it would be kind of nice, but it's not really that important to me. Okay, cool. How nice? About, like, I don't know, if I found $10 on the ground, like, it'd be nice, but it wouldn't really change anything about my day. Okay, cool. In that case, if it wouldn't change anything about your day, then would it change anything about your day if she was not attracted to you? Well, no, probably not. Okay, so your current state now is that you have not found $10. And if you did find $10, it would make you a little bit happier. Your current state with this girl is that you don't know. She might find you attractive or she might not, right? But she's most likely not going to say it either way. But if she does say it, it's probably because she finds you attractive. So our options here are: one, she says nothing, in which case you're in the exact same position you're in now. Or option two, she shows me that she finds me attractive, and cool, my day gets a little bit better. Not by much. Doesn't really matter one way or the other. All right, neat. Well, in that case, if you didn't find $10, would that ever stop you from doing the next thing you were going to do? No, of course not. Okay. So why would what she thinks about you stop you from doing this thing? Yeah, it wouldn't. Do you care what she thinks? No, I don't care in the positive and I don't care in the negative by default, right? Because that is the default. All right, then do the action. Cool. Success. I did the action. Now at that point, she might find me unattractive and walk away. It doesn't matter though, because I did the action. That was all that I wanted to do. Was I wanted to do the action. She turns, she walks away. Does my day get worse? No, not even a little bit. Does my day get better? No, not even a little bit. It literally no change. Why? Because the only thing that I had in mind, the only goal I had was do the action, start a conversation, try to start a conversation. That's it. Everything else, her choice, her feelings, her thoughts, her emotions, totally up to her. She turned and walked away. Why? Because she found me unattractive? Maybe. Was it maybe because she had to take a huge shit? Maybe. Right? Was it maybe because her friends are waiting on her and she just saw the time? Maybe. Could be anything. Not for me to know. Doesn't matter. Impossible to know. So would I let my maybe guesses about her situation change my feelings? No, of course not. Right? So that's the reframe, right? Do you see what I did there of like first defining the problem, second understanding it, look at it from like a total viewpoint of like, okay, how would it affect you? How would this change your actions? How would this make you feel? Cool. What's the reframe here? The reframe is there's no way for me to know what she's thinking, and it doesn't matter what she's thinking as a result. So I have to move along regardless of what she's thinking. Right?
Yeah.
So I do the action, and that's it. Does that kind of make sense? Like I'm trying to break this down into as many steps as possible to just really break down the individual parts.
It actually does make sense. It's just, of course, you will need to practice in order to do that by having multiple interactions, of course. Nothing comes free. Huh? Sorry?
Yeah, like that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah, that completely answers my question too, because I had to deal with a couple of interactions like that in the past because I fumbled literally seeing a couple of beautiful girls in the gym specifically, but since I was too afraid or anxious, like I told you before, I didn't really approach them or anything. I just kept going on my way, but I kind of regret that, honestly. So in order to avoid that, of course, that's actually useful advice.
Right.
We also, yeah.
So
we also have another couple of questions here from the community.
One point that you said there, and I want to really drive this home, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but men and women are different in terms of regret. Women have action regret, like they regret I did this thing, but men almost never have action regret. What we have is we have inaction regret. I hate that I did not do this thing, that I didn't try this, that I didn't go for it. I regret not doing a thing. And so you should always, if you're in a situation, if you have to choose action or inaction, always choose action. Do the action. You are exponentially more likely to regret inaction than you are to regret action every time. So unless you are in some kind of like literal physical danger by doing the action, always do the action. Do the action. You won't regret doing the action.
Yeah, definitely.
You will regret not doing the action.
Yeah, I will keep that in mind in the future, that's for sure. I remember that we also talked about that in the last lesson, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Paul, I know that when you and I first spoke, I think I remember you saying you had some issues with it wasn't exactly anxiety, but some kind of mental hangups and things like that. How did you
Yeah.
get through those?
So the first thing I did, I think I've explained this before, but what I did is I made myself a promise that every time I left my apartment,
Mm,
so I lived in a place where I had to take a bus no matter where I was going. So in on my door, I had a post-it that says, before you're allowed to get on the bus, you have to talk to someone.
mm,
It doesn't matter who it is. It can be a guy, a girl. They can be 18 or they can be 80. Doesn't matter. But you have to talk to someone. And the conversation doesn't have to be more than like, say hello,
sure.
how are you doing today, whatever, right?
Mm,
It's just get used comfortable talking with strangers.
right.
And
So
once you get
that's perfect, because that actually is exactly what I was talking about in this lesson. Of the success state is do the action. Try to start a conversation. There is no expectation beyond that. There is no failure state other than inaction.
yeah. So it was literally just talk to anyone, like, and for Christ's sake, whenever like it's 150 meters from my apartment to the bus stop,
Yeah.
I can't afford to be picky. I just have to choose whoever I see, right? Like there were days where there are no one at the bus stop, right? Okay, then the the rule applies to the bus ride as well.
Right.
But like I had to talk to someone
Mm,
every single time. And then once I started doing that, it kind of worked itself out.
yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense, and that totally lines up with what I was explaining in the lesson. That cool. Proof in action of exactly this concept, but I just broke it down into a 30-minute lesson, and he did that same thing in a post-it note. Like, that's perfect. It works. It's succinct. It makes sense. It does it. I
Yeah.
love that. Awesome. What's our next question, Antonio?
Yeah, for next question, we have what's some easy controversial topics to bring up when on that first date? So I guess to make things more interesting.
Controversial topics?
Yep.
As in controversial in ways of ruining the date, or controversial topics to set you apart from others?
Yeah.
Because
Those
they're
that
two
get
very different
apart
things.
from, yeah.
I
That,
assume that they don't want to ruin the date, right?
no, they actually ask that because I think personally that they want to bring up some interesting conversations with them and leave an impression on them, you know?
Okay. Okay, cool. So
I can take mine first
yeah, go
because
for
I have an entire routine based around this,
it. Hit me with it.
which is first of all one of the most both interesting, a little bit controversial, but probably most successful things you can talk about on a first date is sexual stuff.
Yeah.
Which means you have to make sexual innuendos and you have to like kind of direct it in that direction. And what I did is I have a bar in Seoul where you can choose your own music and they will let you choose anything.
Mm.
Which means we sit down, we grab a piece of paper, and the first thing I say is, okay, while we're waiting, first we order a drink. And I know exactly what to order here because I go there every time, and I know there's a drink where in the menu it says in Korean, it feels like you just received a spring kiss.
Is this the old fashioned?
Yeah, it's the old fashioned bar. And
I already
there,
knew the bar, but
yeah, it's the same bar. It's not the old fashioned itself. It's like a fruity uh one,
some
but
concoction. Okay.
yes. Anyway, so I used that. I ordered that for her, and then I say, okay, while we're waiting for our drinks, because he's not the fastest bartender in the world, we will write down 3 songs that we would put on our banging, like that has to be playing either to get us in the mood or while we're doing it, and they should get in more intense as you go down the list.
Okay.
Like I had a girl put on R. Kelly,
I'm gonna piss on you.
right?
Interesting
And then
choice.
like then we have the drink and like she finishes the drink and like we start talking about other things while we're, but now it's already in her mind, right? And then we circle back to the drink itself and I was like, "Okay, let's get another drink. Here, by the way, You should read the text on the first drink I gave you. So where is my kiss? And then you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's good. Like bringing in sexual topics without being
creepy.
Yeah. So this is actually a really interesting line, and it's tough to walk, especially when you're new, when you're first getting started. Accept the fact that you're probably going to come off as creepy when you're first practicing this. Like that's almost certainly going to happen, right? But there is a way to talk about sexual topics that feels natural. It doesn't feel creepy at all. But if you just start off with you're like, so what's your favorite sexual position? You're like, well, like this doesn't we're not there yet, right? You have to warm up a little bit before you get there. And you can do that with I usually do that with jokes, with sexual meanings, with like kind of like knowing glances if they say something that can be taken as clean or dirty or something like that. Or I'll do the same thing as I'll say something that could be clean or dirty. And then I'll just look at her and suddenly, wait, not like that. Get your mind out of the gutter, you dirty girl, or something like that, where I'm planting the seeds of we're talking about sexual things here, but we're not talking openly or overtly about it, right? We're just I know and you know, but it's our little secret, like this kind of thing. And it builds up into stuff like that.
I did the same. Like I usually tend to use music or food.
Yeah.
As an excuse to talk about it.
Sure.
So like with the like choose your like mood songs.
So what's your favorite vegetable? Let me guess. Eggplant?
No, it's more like if I had to get you back to my hotel with only one dinner and I couldn't say anything, what's the food?
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. There, that works perfectly, right? Now, I want to caution people who are listening in, because if you try to copy paste Paul's line, it won't work. And there's a reason for this, and it's because your style doesn't match up perfectly with Paul's. I've been doing this for 2 decades, and if I tried to copy paste Paul's line, it wouldn't work because it doesn't match my style. So listen to what he's saying and listen to what I'm saying and extract the principles of what we're talking about, but don't copy paste the line. You want it to be your own style. And I realize that sounds like shitty advice of like, well, I do this thing and it works, but don't you dare do it. It's not that. It's that if you try to do this, it won't work. And then you're going to say, oh, well, Jack's full of shit. Oh, Paul's full of shit. And it just doesn't work that way. It's the same way that like the same set of clothes can look different on every single person who wears them. It's similar to that in that like you need to understand what works to your style. And so for me, it's this kind of playful up and down, this back and forth, this like, oh no, not me. I am as virginal as the driven snow. I'm pure. And like this kind of like playful thing, but then also at the same time being like, but I saw what you were doing with that straw earlier. And I have to say, you are making me think some impure thoughts, daughter of mine, or like some weird shit. Like, but it goes back and forth in this. That's a thing that I can pull off because it works to my style when it's obviously not true. So I can pretend to be a Puritan because whenever she talks to me and she looks at me, she's like, this dude will stick his dick in a light socket if he thought it wouldn't kill him. Like that. So it really depends on how you're coming across on your own style.
And then my style is more in terms of like I'm more the brutally honest guy. Like I am honest to a fault. And for anyone questioning whether or not my style works for Jack or Jack's styles work for me, the reason I have my style is because I learned everything from Jack, and then I figured, okay, I need to make the adjustment that it both feels right, but also is right for me.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As far as other controversial topics, avoid politics. generally speaking, avoid politics or religion unless it absolutely has to be brought up, right? Or
what
huh?
about like girls that are hard not to crack, like those that play hard to get and stuff, that maybe do not feel like having a conversation with you, or if you get me, like are hard to have a conversation with, like the hard ones that they do not easily want to have a conversation with you, or do not put the right amount of effort to keep the conversation going, right?
So this
At that
question,
at that point, the interest is mostly gone already.
right? That's what I was going to say. So this question was phrased as controversial topics to talk about on the first date. So based on the question, I am working on the assumption that there's already interest, there's already attraction, there's already some level of conversation happening. Now, if you're talking about just an opening, right? Like you've just opened this girl and she's not giving you anything back, and she doesn't seem interested or wanting to continue the conversation. She's just not interested, and that's fine, right? Again, add it to the data point, to the data set, right? It's just another part of your pattern recognition. But learning when to pull out is also just as important. Not like that, you dirty boy, but learning when to eject from a conversation because she's not interested is an important thing to learn as well, right? But to the controversial topics, I would avoid politics. I would avoid religion, again, unless they're absolutely necessary. But you can also throw in other things, and this is again going to depend heavily on style. But like if a girl starts talking to me, like in an overtly sexual manner, and I don't like it, like if she's like too much, right? Because that happens. Because my style, like I'm not that interested in overly sexual girls and slutty girls, things like that. Then I might say something like, "Oh, that's very interesting. So tell me, how is your relationship with your father, and what made it go wrong?" Like I might go controversial the other way to basically tell her like, "Slow down and shut the fuck up," right? Like let me find these things out on my own. I might do something like that. I wouldn't be afraid to pull punches, but I would do them in kind of a fun, teasing way. Uh, Other controversial topics that you could do like, hey, I have an idea. Let's people watch. Let's find, oh, I know. Let's play fuck, marry, kill. And like that's always going to be controversial, right? And you can choose politicians, right? Like we did that one YouTube video where we went on the street right after the Ukraine invasion, and we were like, and also right after the new Korean election, we were like, fuck, marry, kill the new Korean president or Putin or Zelensky. Who are you going to pick, right? And like that's controversial, and it's not overtly political because it's just fuck, marry, kill, but it is controversial, right? So that's not making a claim one way or another about your political beliefs, but it is making like some kind of inflammatory topic, right? You could do fuck, marry, kill of anybody in the bar, right?
I
And
have
then,
another one that's really fun to play in the bar or at dinners. That is, so you sit down on your date, right? And then you notice that there are other people in the same bars that are on dates. And then you sit over side to side with the girl and you start talking. And so you know they are on a date, right? Do you see how this girl is so much more interested in him than he is in her?
yeah,
And then you start commenting on other people's dates and
yeah,
they get so into it.
absolutely. So that's the people watching thing where you can like do live commentary on things that are happening around you, which is always fun. And again, like it's semi-controversial, but also more than anything, it creates an us bubble where like there's us, nobody else can see us, nobody else can hear us. It's just us talking. We have our own little secret world right here, and everybody else fucking NPCs, right? Like it creates that.
I have done that, and then the dude came into the bathroom to ask for help.
No.
Yeah, we were commenting. We were sitting in a bar and we were commenting on two other people on a date, and you could see the girl was really into him. She was really, really craving for him to start touching and moving closer to her.
Yeah.
And I think he had heard me because we were sitting like kind of back to the right of them,
Sure.
and he was closer than the girl.
Mm.
And then like I got to the bathroom and I see him coming in after me.
Mm.
And then he's like, I heard you were talking. Can you give me any advice? And I'm just like, yeah, just move your seat closer. Problem solved.
Oh, he wanted to turn it up, but he didn't know how?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he
Because
was
that's
asking
not
for
that
advice
guy's
on
job.
like, how do I escape this without her going like,
No, no,
right?
no, no. He wanted it. He just had no idea.
Oh,
But
okay.
leaving it at that, I have to go deal
Okay.
with family stuff for the holidays.
Yeah.
So I'll catch you guys next time.
All right, buddy. Thanks for joining, Paul. Appreciate it. And I'll catch you next time. All right.
Bye
Tell the
bye.
family I
Yeah,
said
bye.
hi.
I will.
All right. All right, Antonio, let's keep going.
Yep. Okay, so for the first question we have, how can I make a conversation with my waitress and try and get her number? Interesting.
Okay. So
Can I leave a suggestion?
yeah.
I mean, since this guy probably said my waitress, maybe it means that he comes to that kind of bar probably a lot of times or pretty often. Therefore, I think they see each other quite a bit. I don't know. I'm making an assumption here, but if that's the case,
Okay.
I mean, I think that could actually be very easy for him to start a conversation of some sort. Maybe I don't know. Let's say you order I don't know a special kind of coffee that you like, and maybe she notices it, and you can make a comment about it, and the conversation keeps going forward. It depends on the situation, honestly. But what do you think? That
I think if it's a situation like that where you're already a regular and she knows you well, you are so far into it's not even the friend zone. Like she has zoned you in her mind as customer, client, no potential interest at all. That's her mind literally cannot go there. Right? It's kind of similar to like no matter how hot your cousin is, you aren't going to find her attractive, right? Like it's your mind sorts people and it keeps them there forever. If you're a regular, then especially if this is in America, because I know the guy who was asking this, he's in America. Listen, she's not gonna risk losing her good tips, to do some date or something. She might string you along for a little bit. I would abandon hope on that entirely if you're already a regular. Now, on the flip side, if it's your first time interacting with her, then you actually have a pretty decent shot. But this advice is going to go for waitresses. This is going to go for bar staff. This is going to go for people working at a cafe like the baristas or anybody like that. Anybody who is at work when you talk to them, you have a limited leeway on what you can do here because you don't have very long usually to strike up a conversation. What I would do is I would notice something particular about them, about their probably not style because they're wearing a uniform or something like that, or if they're working in a bar, maybe they're not. I don't know. I would notice something particular, and then I would invite them to hang out later. And hold on, let me finish this thought first, and then I'll jump to the how. So I would notice something particular, or I would say something like, I would go with the statement. You seem like the kind of person who really likes wine. Am I right? Yeah. And then, or whatever it is, right? I would jump into something like that. And then I would invite them out. And what I would do is I would say, Now, listen, I know you're at work right now, and probably there are some rules against this, but occasionally, just occasionally, rules are made to be broken. But I don't want you to get in trouble. So here's what we're going to do. I want you to, if you're interested, if you want to party, you want to hang out, whatever it is you're inviting them to do, I want you to write your number down on the receipt. Just get a pen and write it down, old school style, like spies, right? No digital trail at all. Just write down your number there. And then whenever I leave, I'll shoot you a message, and then we can set up the details and hang out later. Okay. And that's how I would do this. And I've done exactly that thing at cafes.
Does it work still today?
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
of course, it's that if she's interested, right? Now, also, there's just as much of a likelihood that she's just not interested, right? Which is fine, right? You can still shoot your shot, but this is how I would do it. And this is how I've done it in the past that has worked well, is I've pointed out that exact thing, said that, almost that exact routine, right? Maybe not word for word, but pretty damn close. Usually that thing about like being a spy, oh, just write it down. I don't want you to get in trouble, but I do want you to have fun. Oh, rules are made to be broken. Things like this, like just kind of lead it and make it fun, make it interesting, make it our little secret, that kind of feeling. And then if they write it down, then she's interested and she's going to give you her number. You shoot her a message and then you can set things up from there, right? And if you want, you can keep the whole spy thing up and call her by some spy name or whatever and be like, Mother Hen, this is Papa Jack. Papa Jack coming in. Mother Hen, are you reading me? It's some bullshit, right? Like, do it like a fucking spy movie. Make it interesting, unique, fun, right? That's what I would do with a situation like that. That said, your chances are significantly lower just because she's taking more risk than normal by giving you her number, right? If things go badly, it might actually ruin her job. So,
From what I understood, from what you teach, is that the longer someone takes to approach a girl that they see or talk to, the harder it gets for them to actually be successful with their approach.
yes, that is generally the case. Now, one exception to this might be if you're trying to get your waitress's number, you don't want to do that at the beginning of the meal. You want to do that at the end, whenever you're asking for the bill, you're asking for your check or whatever it is, right? You don't want to do that at the very beginning. Because, first of all, if she says no, it makes it feel a little bit awkward, a little bit weird for her the rest of the time. And even if she says yes, it still gives like a long time before she needs to actually write it down. She might forget, she might change her mind, she might, ask her coworkers, and then they're all going to be like, oh, that's a bad idea. You could lose your job, you could whatever else. So I would say in a situation like that, if she's your waitress in like an American style restaurant where she's going to be your only waitress the whole time, she's going to deal with you, she's going to bring you the check, that kind of situation, then I'd wait until the very end and then I would deal with it from there, right? Let me
Yeah, it's just a comment, but also people working in servers are in a way paid to be nice to you. So working that line feels like choosing one of the hardest levels possible. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yes, that's very true. And so this is a mistake that I've seen some guys make, is that they think the bartender is into them because she's flirting with him. And it's like, yeah, but like her job is to flirt with you, especially if she gets tipped more, the more you like her, then she's gonna flirt with you, of course, because that's the job. So it doesn't necessarily mean that she's interested in you, but if you're going to shoot if you're going to shoot your shot, this is how you would do it, right? You would do it at the very end. You would do it when there's no extra. Lose the connection. What happened?
Well, but you're back now.
I saw what happened. My yeah, okay. Yeah, don't worry, Z-Mac. I see you lagging behind a little bit. My connection got fucked up there too. My OneDrive started trying to sync, and so it ate my whole connection.
Yeah, you exploded in a second there. I don't know what happened.
It's
I
fine.
thought I had to put, to keep the live stream going by myself at a point, but
You're good. You're good. So yeah, I would be careful about whether or not you think that somebody actually likes you, because you have no way of knowing. But if you're going to shoot your shot, that's how I would do it. I would do it at the very end when there's less pressure on her and there's nothing to be gained or lost by either giving you the number or not giving you the number. There's just the situation. That's all. All right, Anthony. Next question.
yeah. All right. For last question, we have, what are some examples you shouldn't approach? I think some people define it hard to decide whether or not someone will talk to you in any given situation.
Okay. Let's move that back over. All right. So your question there, you kind of broke up there a little bit. Your connection is getting iffy, but the question I think was, what are the examples of when you shouldn't approach, right?
Yeah.
And funerals. No, generally speaking, there are some examples of when you shouldn't approach, but most guys already know them. This is really weird because I can see you moving on one side, but it's not coming through on the other side. Hold on. Just 1 second. Let's try that. Nope. Okay, you're still frozen as a portrait, but that's okay. Handsome man. So there are situations when you should not approach, but you already know those situations. Like if she's there with her boyfriend, don't do the approach then, right? Like that's not a good idea. And if you know that she has a boyfriend, then don't approach, right? Don't try to get in the middle of a relationship if you can avoid it. But for the most part, there are situations when it's better to approach, when it's easier to approach, right? Of course, it's a little bit more difficult if she has earphones in or something like that. Don't approach her if she's on the phone. If she's on the phone, don't at all, right? But for the most part, you're better off doing the approach than not doing the approach. Even if you do the approach and then you see she's on the phone or she's with her boyfriend or whatever, then you can be like, oh, sorry, my bad, and just walk away. Like, it's fine. I would be careful with trying to find reasons to not approach, because your brain is going to think of a million reasons to not approach anyway. So as a rule, do the approach, because like we talked about in the lesson, the action is the success, right? That is our success point, is doing the action of trying to start a conversation. And so unless there's a reason why you cannot start the conversation, she's there with her boyfriend, right? And even if you're just doing it for platonic reasons, it's still going to look like something else. So I wouldn't mess with that. Same thing, she's on the phone, some situation like that. She's otherwise very busy with something. She's engaged. She's at the gym, but she's currently working on one of the machines. Those, like what we were talking about earlier, don't approach in those situations, but you should pretty much already know those things. So don't try to give yourself more reasons to not approach. You should, more often than not, just do the approach. Just talk.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Sometimes my brain just goes numb because it tries to find, words or phrases or things to bring up in a conversation. It never works out, and I just go in and see what happens. So I just call out the first thing that comes out of my mouth.
Yeah.
One
Well,
time I was training. I was running on the street, and this girl approached me because she liked me. She said something about training in the gym personally, but what I said so stupid because I didn't know what to say at that time was that, hey, if you want to do cardio, I'm here. All right. Now, I didn't mean that in a sexual kind of sort of way, but she got that in that way and she felt weirded out. of course. But what can I do? It's the first thing that came out of my mouth. It wasn't. That's the thing.
No, that's perfectly fine, right? Because
Yeah.
in a situation like that, if you say that and then you hear it and you see her response and you say, "Hey, not like that. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Yeah.
Hey, girl, do you think about sex all day or only when you're hanging out with me? What's going on here?"
Yeah.
Right? Like it can turn into its own little joke. That's perfectly fine, right? I wouldn't worry about any of that. The most important thing is ignore your brain whenever it's trying to make excuses for like, oh, don't do this because don't approach because your mind is going to try to make up all this stupid shit, and it's wrong. It's wrong. Your mind.
Evolutionary speaking, we're kind of fucked, by the way. Like our brain does everything to set you back just because of fear of danger in some sort of way. If you think about it, even
Yeah.
approaching because it's mysterious and it's new, so the brain just kicks in all these hormones and stuff, and you go crazy sometimes.
Yeah, but you have to train against that, right? Like it's the same as anything else. If you're on a diet, your brain is like, yeah, but I really fucking want a Snickers. Wouldn't that be good? Hey, only one, it can't hurt, right? And then you have to fight against it. We know that in every other context. But then guys are like, but my brain said not to approach. And it's like, yeah, your brain's been wrong about fucking everything else. It's wrong about this one too, I promise.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree to that.
So yeah, so to answer the question, do the approach. Unless there is a threat of physical danger, which a boyfriend being there would present some kind of threat of physical danger, or it is just so obviously wrong. She's crying, she's fighting with somebody, she's doing something and she's very focused, she's on a phone call, right? Like the most basic social shit in the world. Don't approach them in those situations. Everything else, shoot your shot, do your approach, because all you're doing is you're collecting data. It doesn't have to work, right? It doesn't have to start a conversation. All you have to do is try to start the conversation, and then you'll learn from that. You'll learn from the pattern.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay,
think we're done with the questions right now.
awesome. Well then, do you have any more questions, or any of you guys in the chat? If y'all have questions,
I
better hurry.
personally don't.
You
Maybe
what?
C-Mac. Maybe I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it still.
C-Mac?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he might, but that's okay. I think we're good for now. If he has a question, he can message me, and then I'll either answer him one-on-one, or we can add it onto next week's live stream as well. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So for those of you who have joined in, if you haven't done it yet, if you're still watching and you haven't done it yet, please drop a thumbs up, drop a like below the video. It really does help a lot. It helps the channel. It helps me. It's super helpful for us, and I would consider it a personal favor. So thank you for that. If you've already done it, appreciate it. And thank you for watching until the end. You guys are all fucking heroes. And Antonio and Paul, who's no longer with us, rest in peace, buddy. Thank you guys. Special thank you for joining in today. Really appreciate it a lot. And until next week, boys, Papa Jack out.